Students, in our last class we have discussed how the Indians started a rebellion against the British atrocities by starting the revolt of 1857, by forming the Indian National Congress, and at the end of our last class we saw that the British started to suppress the feelings of nationalism among the Indians by following a divide and rule policy. If you have missed our last class, then the link is in the description box below, you can check it there. Now today in this chapter we will learn how the British were successful in introducing the divide and rule policy, how the Indians protested that, and what were the movements Indians started against the British Crown that ultimately forced them to provide India its freedom. So hello students and viewers, I hope you all are doing well. This is your Arindam sir and you are watching Revision Learning. Our today's chapter name is India Wins Freedom, and it's the 6th chapter from the Enjoy and Learn Term 2 book for the class 5 students. In the initial days, after forming the Indian National Congress, we knew that the Indian National Congress was formed by a Britisher. His name was Alan Octavian Hume, and the first president of the Indian National Congress was an Indian, W.C. Banerjee. So in the initial days after forming the Indian National Congress, the Indians got very little success. So they gradually demanded for the participation in the governance of the country and also in forming self-government. With the passage of time, the Indian National Congress started to divide into two groups, the moderates and the extremists. Moderates wanted to follow the British rule with little changes in them, while the extremists wanted to form a self-government. Extremists felt that a struggle for freedom was required in order to stop the atrocities of British. The split between these two sections of the Indian National Congress came into the limelight at the end of Congress Banaras session in 1905. Leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, they supported this theory. Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak gave a famous slogan while supporting the extremists. The slogan was, "Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it." So the Britishers took the advantage of this split in the Indian National Congress, and in the same year, that is in 1905, they followed the policy of divide and rule by making a partition of Bengal, that is West Bengal. They did the partition to divide the Hindus against the Muslims. The extremists of Congress were totally against it, and in anger they started the Swadeshi and boycott movement. Swadeshi means our own country and boycott means to refuse or saying no to something. The movement started saying no to foreign goods. It also focused on buying Indian goods and clothes. The movement that began as an agitation to oppose the Bengal partition then became a mass movement as people from all over the country started to boycott foreign clothes and goods. They burned the foreign clothes and started to wear the Desi clothes. Due to this movement, finally, in 1911, the British were forced to reunite the Bengal. So in 1911, they reunited the Bengal that they did partition earlier. Along the Swadeshi and boycott movement, Rishi Aurobindo Ghosh, Veer Savarkar and Ajit Singh, they formed a secret revolutionary society. Now, let's talk about the role of Mahatma Gandhi in the Indians' freedom movement. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or Mahatma Gandhi, lovingly called Bapu or Father of the Nation, was a leader of the non-violent independent movement against British rule in India. Mahatma Gandhi studied law in South Africa and came back to India in 1915 after fighting against racism in South Africa. Now students, racism means it's a belief that a particular race or community is discriminated or antagonized by an individual or a group or community on the basis of their particular racial or ethnic group, typically one who belong from minority or marginalized group. But this discrimination is very unlawful and unparliamentary. And our Mahatma Gandhi, he fought against that racism in South Africa. So after returning from South Africa to India, he started to fight for the civil rights of Indians, as he was touched by poor conditions of the common people of India. He chose the way of Satyagraha, that is truth, and Ahimsa, that is non-violence, to fight against the British rule. He always chose the paths of peaceful and non-violent protest, and his non-violent approach made him as one of the most revered figures in the modern history. So students, this is only the first part of the video. In our next part, we are going to discuss more about this chapter, as we have not finished up till now. In our next video, in the next part, we will discuss about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the non-cooperation movement, the civil disobedience movement, the Quit India movement, and the role of Indian National Army under the leadership of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in the Indians' freedom path. Students, in our last class we have discussed about the partition of Bengal, the important movements in the partition of Bengal, then how the partition got reunited by the British due to the Swadeshi and boycott movement. We have also learned about some revolutionaries, their works and their important deeds in the India's freedom struggle, and also we have learned about our Bapu Mahatma Gandhi, how and what ways or what was his weapons in the India's freedom struggle. He chose the way of Satyagraha and Ahimsa to fight for injustice by the British. So it was all about in our last video, India Wins Freedom part 1, which was the chapter number 6 from your social studies book. So today we will continue this chapter, and this is the second part of this video. And in today's video we will learn about the different movements which was led by Mahatma Gandhi and the Indian National Congress, and also what is the role of Indian National Army in the India's freedom struggle and how ultimately India got freedom. We will discuss everything. So students, if you have missed the first video, that is our earlier video, India Wins Freedom part 1, then the link is just exactly in the description box. Go to the link and watch the video. And students, this is your Arindam sir, and you are watching Revision Learning. Now let's start our today's topic. So when Mahatma Gandhi came to India in the year 1915, he was touched by the poor conditions of the Indians. Then he decided to fight for those poor people, and he chose the way of Satyagraha and Ahimsa. Now on the year 1919, the British government passed a act. The name of the act was Rowlatt Act, and according to the Rowlatt Act, any person could be arrested on the mere basis of suspicion. So this act was called the Black Act and was widely opposed by the Indians. Gandhiji then launched the Rowlatt Act Satyagraha, and soon after this, on the 13th April 1919 in Punjab, there was an unprecedented support for the Rowlatt Act Satyagraha, and for this a public meeting was organized at the Jallianwala Bagh. Then suddenly the British officer General Dyer marched in the Jallianwala Bagh, and without any warning he ordered his troops to open fire at the gathered crowd. According to the official report, 379 people were killed and 1137 people were wounded in the incident, but the actual death was much more. Then the Jallianwala Bagh massacre was condemned by the people of every sections of India, and thus this massacre gave a tremendous impetus to the India's freedom struggle. After this, the non-cooperation movement started in the year 1920 by Mahatma Gandhi. Now, according to the non-cooperation movement, Mahatma Gandhi asked the people of Indians to disobey the laws imposed by the British government, to boycott the foreign goods and clothes, also to boycott the foreign government schools and colleges and their courts. Instead, Gandhiji asked the Indians to be self-sufficient, and for this non-cooperation movement, most of the Indians resigned from the government posts. But this non-cooperation movement was stopped by Gandhiji because a mob in the Chauri Chaura, Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh, set a police station on fire and killed around 22 policemen there. Gandhiji was very sad after this incident, and he immediately stopped the non-cooperation movement. But during the movement, many political leaders supported Gandhiji. Some of the names were like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Motilal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sarojini Naidu, C. Rajagopalachari, etc. After the non-cooperation movement was stopped in the year 1927, the British appointed a commission to review the law and order of the country and also to review the works of the Indians under the Government of India Act 1919. I will make a separate video based on this Government of India Act 1919 later on. Now, this commission was known as the Simon Commission, which was led by a British politician, Sir John Simon, along with 7 other Britishers. Indians opposed this commission as Indians were not included in that commission, and when they came to India, like when the Simon Commission came to India, that team, India greeted that team with the slogan, "Simon, go back." Now, during this Simon Commission, some revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev, Chandrasekhar Azad, and some other new revolutionaries joined the India's freedom struggle, and Bhagat Singh played a very pivotal role in the India's freedom struggle. Now, then came the civil disobedience movement. Now, after the Simon Commission, the Indian National Congress demanded Purna Swaraj, that is complete independence from the British colonial rule, and Gandhiji in the year 1930 started the civil disobedience movement for this reason. Now, in the civil disobedience movement, the Gandhiji started a march from the Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. It's also called as the Dandi March, just to break the salt law which was imposed by the Britishers. It's a type of satyagraha by breaking the salt law. So in my next video, students, I will also make you understand what was the salt law and why Gandhiji decided to break the salt law. After the civil disobedience movement, there came the Quit India movement, again led by the Gandhiji. Now, on the 9th August 1942, Gandhiji started the Quit India movement as the civil disobedience movement was withdrawn as per the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Now, during the Quit India movement, Gandhiji appealed to the Indians to join the movement and also gave the "Do or Die" slogan and demanded the British government that they should quit India. They protested against the British, and the British government also ordered the policemen to torture the protesters, and also they did lathi charge on them several times. Then our Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, he started the Indian National Army or Azad Hind Force. His belief was that the British would not leave India till they were pushed out with force, and he gave the slogan Jai Hind. Netaji's one of the famous slogan was also "Give me blood and I will give you freedom." With the efforts of Gandhiji and Netaji, finally the British in the year 1947 decided to leave India, because during that time the Second World War was over and the British government was tired of that World War. At the same time, the United States of America and the Russia had become the new world powers after the Second World War, and they too supported the Indian leaders. So finally the Britishers agreed to leave India, but the country was divided into India and Pakistan. On 15 August 1947, India became independent. On that historical occasion, the first Prime Minister of India was Jawaharlal Nehru, Free India, Jawaharlal Nehru. And during that time he gave one speech and he said, "At the stroke of the midnight hour when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom."
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. Not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
The first president of the Free India was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. 70 plus years have passed and India is now an independent country. But during these 70 years, India has endured and been threatened with several wars, but remained powerful and unified without any ramifications on her solidarity and commonwealth. India is and was strong and united as always. So with this, I am winding up today's video. I hope that you have liked this video. So please show some love, give a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe Revision Learning and press the bell icon so that you never miss any of our videos and updates. Till then, keep learning, keep enjoying, and we'll meet in our next video. Stay safe.